Happy Monday! Let's talk some Eagles with EJ Smith of The Inquirer, who's in studio. We got a full week of no Zach. What are we going to do? Let's find out next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles show on a Monday. Bo Wolf joined in studio by EJ Smith. EJ, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this fight. I'm just joking. That's my best Zach impersonation.
Let's have a great show.
Yeah, let's have a great show. No, I'm excited to be here. This is my second time here. I'm always very impressed with how professional your operation is here. I'm going to be honest. So the last thing I wanted to say is I've been watching you come up with the name for this game we're going to be playing. And this is like you're watching a master at work type stuff. I mean, I'm impressed.
About 4 minutes.
I'm very excited
that
to
I
hear
have
what
a
you
name.
came up with. Yeah.
So we will get to that. We got a nice, a true welcome to the show for you to give you an inscrutable game that we've never played before. I think that's the way to do it.
I can hear Daniz already like, the game theory is terrible with EJ. He's going to mess this up. So listen, I'm new to the games.
This is one where I think you'll have an excuse to not have great game theory.
You did a good job of covering.
How was your weekend?
It was good. It was quiet. You know, I had my family over yesterday. We did some grilling. That was nice. And just kind of like laid around a little bit. You know, I feel like you need that in the off season every once in a while.
Good time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. How anxious do you feel like Zach is right now listening to the show wherever he is?
I hope he's not listening. I hope he's enjoying some time away.
I mean, he's going to be listening.
If he is listening, I hope that he's at least enjoying the show a little bit, not too anxious. Listen,
I hope he's enjoying his
Zach,
family
if
time.
If you're watching this, I'm going to do fine. You don't have to worry about me. I'll handle it for you. Yeah.
All right. Here's the deal. We're going to play a game. And we've done the blind ranking thing sort of as a joke. But we're going to use that as a framing device to talk about a bunch of different Eagles topics. How this game is going to be played is I have a list of 10 things that are Eagles related, that are number related, and you are going to blind rank them one at a time, and we'll discuss them as we go. And then at the end, I will tell you how I would have ranked them. And you are going to get the opportunity to switch 2 items on your list. The more complicated, the better. That is how we feel about this. And then, after that, you're going to give 10 to me. And we're going to reverse the exercise. And the name of this game, EJ, are you ready?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Blind as a Battis.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Battis is a bird.
I didn't know what a Battis was a bird, but I
didn't know it until
excellent
3 minutes ago.
Love it. Yeah.
Blind as a Battis. So, should we get into this?
Let's do it.
Your first item, EJ, and you see him in. I don't want to show you. I gotta. You've got hovering eyes there. You got wandering eyes trying to steal a look at what's to come. You see him on the thumbnail there. Kelee Ringo. You have sort of staked out a bit of a position on Kelee Ringo Island. It feels like, or at least you're pretending as if you own Kelee Ringo, and not everybody else who saw him have a pretty good training camp last year.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to this item. How much of your gazzing up of Kelee Ringo has to do with the fact that he is, despite being more tenured in the NFL, actually a full year younger than Quinyon Mitchell?
That is a big part of it for sure. But honestly, this is my hot take. Listen, this is my hot take here. He has a very similar upside to Quinyon Mitchell, in my opinion.
Similar upside?
He has all the physical traits to be a lockdown cornerback in the NFL. Will he get there? I'm not sure. I mean, I think that it's going to take a lot for him to reach that potential. But the ceiling is apparent when you look at him. When you watch him play, he has all of the physical attributes. Like at least for me, when I look at cornerback prospects, I like to see to steal the Jeff Stoutlandism, some unusual traits.
Yeah.
Like I want the spider chart to be full when I look at cornerbacks, especially if you're going to draft them high up in the draft. With Kelee Ringo, the spider chart is full. When you watch his tape, it's a little bit. He doesn't have as much fluidity. He doesn't have the technique that you really want to see from a corner. But I think having the last couple of years to sort of develop behind the scenes, I feel like there's a chance that he has sort of accessed some of that potential that I think was really apparent when they drafted him.
Yeah, I feel like when you watch Kelee Ringo, he's a very linear athlete.
Yeah.
Right? Like he can run downfield with anybody. He can run forward and break on a ball really nicely. It's the mirroring in those intermediate places where maybe there's something to be left wanting just a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, listen, if Kelee Ringo hits on, his 80th percentile outcome, something like that, you've probably got the best young group of corners in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think so. I think that's a good point too. It's like the reading and the reacting part, but I feel like that is stuff you can teach. Maybe some of the hip mobility, stuff like that. I don't get as much into that. I don't evaluate it as much as maybe somebody like Fran would, but I do feel like, again, that seems easier to me to teach than the height, weight, speed that he possesses. So again, I know it sounds crazy to say that like he could be as good as Quinyon Mitchell. I think that that's a big leap, but I do think the physical traits. I've always been a traits guy. I've always been like
for every position or just for corner? Pretty
much for every position. Okay. I mean, maybe like offensive line and defensive end. I feel like there's a little bit more of like, how does it look when you watch those guys?
Interesting. Defensive end to me is a traitsy position.
Yeah, but see, and I'm not super well brushed up on prospects yet. That's what this week is for me. But when I watch somebody like James Pierce Jr., it's frustrating. I'm like, this guy doesn't have any pass rush bag. He literally just runs around people. So for those positions, I do want it to look a certain way. Okay. But for a lot of positions, I do think betting on physical traits, more often will lead you to the right types of players. So
I feel like linebacker is the position that I care least about traits.
Like? I mean, I still think you want somebody rangy.
I mean, I would rather have someone rangy than someone who's not.
Yeah, it raises the floor and it raises the ceiling too. So, I don't know. I think I have staked out a lot of position on Kelee Ringo Island. I'm not really sure. It's a high variance position. It's a tough position to like really stake your flag on. Well, it could be ugly, but I do think that he has some real upside.
Especially because it is a position where you can be singled out and targeted.
Sure.
Right? And if you're playing with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, there's a good chance you're going to be targeted.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to see a lot of the ball if he's on the field. I mean, listen, is there a potential that, Kelee Ringo gives up a big touchdown and I got a bunch of people in my mentions on Blue Sky and Twitter saying, oh, EJ, you said Kelee Ringo is going to be as good as Quinyon Mitchell. Maybe, but listen, I'm not going to claim that. If he does well, that's when you come out and you ask Bo to pull the clip. Last time I was on your show, I actually have something to bring up here.
Uh-oh.
Last time I was on your show, I think I said, I remember talking about Cooper DeJean. And I said, I think this guy would be a great fit for the Eagles. I told Zach I thought he would really like Cooper DeJean. Listen, you get some right every once in a while.
Okay. All right. I have no memory of that.
We're gonna have to run the tape on that.
I believe you.
We're gonna have to run the tape on that one.
All right. So the item here for you to rank 1 to 10, and 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, is 2025 starts by Kelee Ringo, playoffs included.
So I also had this one on mine.
Oh, interesting.
So I do think there's a little bit of a muddying of the picture that we have to talk about here.
Okay.
If the Eagles come out in base, I don't think Kelee Ringo is a part of the base defense.
Yeah, but they're not going to come out. I mean, they're going to play like come out in base, 7 base snaps.
But see, that's like the formality. See, listen, I'm already up on this. That's a little bit of the formality.
Well, you got to price that in.
Because I do think that Cooper DeJean makes sense as your number 2 base outside cornerback.
Okay.
It's only when you are a nickel that he should be at nickel. So assuming that might cost him a game or two, I feel like I put that number, maybe I shouldn't tell you what I put that number at, because then it's going to mess me up when I go to my rankings. Although you probably feel differently than me. I have that ranking around 15. I feel like if he stays healthy, I think he will be the starter.
Okay.
We can talk about it.
But you have no idea what band my numbers are working in here. Is 15 going to be on the low end or is 15 going to be on the high end?
That's a good point. I feel like Kelee Ringo will be the starter. I think Adoree Jackson, if you look at his PFF numbers, they're eerily similar to Isaiah Rodgers' PFF numbers.
Adoree Jackson?
Yeah, they're very similar. And I feel like he's a good...
I mean, I say interesting because I'm trying to make conversation, but I'm a little bit offended you're bringing me PFF numbers.
Well, I mean, just like the targets. I watched his targets, and honestly, my takeaway was I think he's a perfect backup corner because he's not going to get beat deep. He's not going to cost you a game.
Okay.
But he's not necessarily somebody that you want on the field down in and down out. So I feel like he's an ideal backup. I think they are setting this up to give Kelee Ringo
it is the ideal low bar for Kelee Ringo to clear.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that his starts are somewhere in the 15 range. I know that could be a pretty ugly take in a couple of months, but I'm going to give him probably 3 just to give myself some space here.
3.
No, you know what? No, I changed my mind. I'm going to go 4.
4. Okay.
I'm a little worried about what else you have coming for me, but I'm going to go 4.
You have no idea what's coming. Kelee Ringo starts. Okay. The second item, somewhat similar. 2025 starts combined by Sidney Brown and Tyler Steen.
Ooh, so I have something similar to this in mind too. Combined starts for those two. I'll be honest with you, I'm not buying the Sidney Brown as a starting safety. Stop.
Okay.
It's a lot of S's that I got out there.
Yeah.
Alliterations here.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not buying the Sidney Brown stock, but Tyler Steen I do think has a real runway to this position.
One thing I do remember is you were big on Tyler Steen last year at this time.
I thought he was solid even this year. I mean, he had some shaky moments, but I feel like their evaluation of Tyler Steen is different than mine. And
I agree with you.
I honestly probably trust theirs more. You know, they're the ones who get paid to actually know these things.
It seems pretty clear that for whatever reason,
they don't trust him in that spot.
Jeff Stoutland does not love Tyler Steen yet.
So honestly, this might sound like outlandish to you because, again, this is where the game theory and the probabilities come into factor. But
sure, 2 is greater than 1. But
yeah, but I'm going to go with my gut here. I feel like there's a chance neither of those guys are starters. I think that the Eagles could draft an heir apparent to Lane Johnson who ends up starting at that right guard position. And I feel like Sidney Brown, I could see them drafting a safety on day 2 that kind of fills that role as well. So I'm probably going to put that 6.
Well, you think so hold on. Lower is better. Lower is a lower number. So you think there's going to be you still think this is going to be a higher number than Kelee, even though you think Keelee's 15?
No. Sorry, I said Kelee 4, right?
Kelee 4.
So
right?
If I put them at 6, that means I think they're starting fewer games, right?
No. It would have to be a lower number.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh no!
Now this is the good stuff. We want it to be very, very indecipherable. This is very confusing.
So if I think
if the numbers were 0 and 4 and 11, you would want 0 at the 1 spot.
Oh, okay.
The 1 spot is the low. So do you want to move Kelee up?
I want Kelee at 6.
Okay, you want Kelee at 6 or 7? You want it at 7 then?
7.
The corresponding.
Yeah. Math was never my strong suit.
Kelee Ringo starts.
And then let's put Steen and Sidney let's put them at 4.
At 4.
I think I'm okay with that.
Okay. We're on the same page about how the numbers work now.
Yes, I'm going to have to change mine a little bit, but yes.
Okay. And on Sidney Brown, what do you think their internal evaluation of him is?
I think that they're still bullish on him. I think that he's a hard player not to appreciate, the way that he plays the game and the physical traits. I just mentioned that with Kelee Ringo. I think they're apparent with him as well. I think my biggest question is we just never really seen him as a post safety. So I think it's a real projection to put him into a Vic Fangio system where the safeties are very important and they are asked to do a lot. I think that it's hard to really know what you're going to expect, what you can expect from him. I actually thought that he was an interesting player as that nickel corner on the early downs and the 5 down fronts. I know that defense was a train wreck, but I thought he actually was an interesting player there because he is kind of like a pseudo linebacker in that way. I think he could be a good sub package player, but if you're telling me he's your post safety every single down, that does give me some pause. I'm not sure that, we just haven't seen it.
And would you then now listen, there's some interchangeability. Would you want Reed Blankenship to then be the post safety? I mean, he doesn't strike you as athletically,
they're
but
both post safeties to a certain degree.
They
are interchangeable. So I just worry if you had told me it was a different system, if you told me it was a Jim Schwartz system, I probably would feel better about Sidney Brown as a starting safety. But in a Vic Fangio system, I just have a little bit of pause on what it might look like. Again, they have more information on it than we do, so maybe they're confident in it. I feel like this is a position you draft. I feel like this is a day 2.
Do you think this is okay, Vic, go pick the safety that you like in the draft? I think
that would make sense. I do think that there's also an interesting, we don't have to have this conversation now, but I think there's an interesting conversation to have about the fact they have a $17 million a year linebacker now. They have to figure out how to build a defense with an expensive linebacker at the center of things. Maybe that comes at the expense of the safety position. Maybe that's where it has to come from. I feel like it makes more sense to kind of, lean on the fact that you've got the cornerbacks on rookie deals, and maybe it's the edge rusher position that isn't as heavily invested in.
That's interesting.
Because again, we are used to seeing the Eagles defense built a certain way, and it's with low-cost linebackers. I think that they are going to have to figure out how to build it with Zach Bond at the center and kind of leverage his ability to kind of make up for some of the deficiencies elsewhere.
But it also doesn't have to be. I mean, it's a short-term problem.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's basically a 2-year deal, right? And so eventually, when Bond comes off, then you're going to be paying those young defensive linemen, and it'll be sort of back to what you might expect. But yeah, short term, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right, the third item here: Week 1 starters who are not currently on the Eagles roster.
Is it full starters or offensive starters?
Either side of the ball.
Okay.
So there are 22 spots here.
All right. So if it was offensive, I would have felt like that number could be like super low. Like, I mean, obviously you've got right guard.
You've got tight end.
Yeah, like wide receiver.
I mean, you've got potential injury situations that could happen, but
defensively, I mean,
you've got a second linebacker spot. You've got safety. You potentially corner.
But we're Kelee Ringo Island.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying potentially.
In the interest of not just sitting here in silence, I'm probably gonna assume that's gonna be.
This is somewhere, but it's probably somewhere between 1 and 6.
Yeah, I was in that 3 to 4 range.
Okay.
So I think I'm gonna put that too. See, I've seen. Listen,
I think that's a good spot
for the listeners here. I've watched enough of the TikToks where the people rank these things, right, to know that you never give away one early.
Sure.
You always kind of need those polls. You need to have that available to you. So I'm going to keep one open, but I do think that number could be reasonably low. I think it's interesting too, because it's like we talk so much about these moves that they've made in the first couple of weeks of free agency. And there's a lot of a lot of angst about like what it's going to look like. It's like, they're going to return like 18 starters or 19 starters. And they were one of the best teams in the league all of last season, won the Super Bowl. Like there's still a lot to feel good about, even if some of these flyers on free agencies maybe are a little underwhelming at the start here.
Okay. I am regretting a little bit not being a little bit more diabolical
with the numbers
about the numbers, because it is a pretty narrow
which means
band.
that I'm doing well.
And you're actually so you're annoyed. More bones here. No, it's good. But it's not. There's not going to be that big surprise to come, I don't think. But okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Never know.
All right, next one and the last one before the break. The final place in the Premier League table that Aston Villa finishes.
I was hoping this would come up. All right, so
let's give a little background. Explain to the people why you love Aston Villa.
So I went to a Premier League match 3 years ago, and it was West Ham versus Leeds. And I would say I was Premier League curious by that point. I hadn't picked a team yet. I was just sort of on the fringes and watching it more. I went to see that match and I was like blown away at like the culture of like English soccer, right?
Okay.
So I made it my express written purpose that whole summer to figure out which team I wanted to root for. Aston Villa came to the link.
Why not
summer
West
series.
Ham or Leeds?
I heard that West Ham fans are kind of crazy. And West Ham had just won a trophy, so I felt like that was a little bit of bandwagon fandom. Leeds, they just gotten relegated, and I just didn't really want to. I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to root for a Premier League team.
Reasonable.
So I watched Aston Villa in the summer series, and there were a couple of things. You don't choose a team when you're an adult very often. So good ownership structure was important to me, and a manager that played a style that was fun to watch and an educational.
Front-footed.
Yes, exactly. Positive, as the British soccer fans would call it. So I watched Aston Villa in person and was hooked. And honestly, at this point, I am embarrassed about how much of an Aston Villa fan I've become. I watched the games with like my head in my hands. Like I took my heart rate one time after a match that was really close, and it was in the triple digits. I was very embarrassed about that. So yeah, I've become a massive Aston Villa fan. So you asking about their table position, I'll be honest. I think they're going to finish mid-table. They're 9th right now. I want them to push into the European places, which would be 8th, 7th. I actually don't want them to qualify for the Champions League again. It's a hot take.
Really?
I want them to qualify for the Europa League because I think they could win it. But, and this is the real wrench in this, and I know I'm going on longer than you probably even anticipated already.
I'm giving you runway.
I think they should prioritize their FA Cup run, and I think they should prioritize the Champions League. They're Champions League semifinalists.
I thought it was
quarterfinalists.
Okay.
Think of how amazing that is.
Right, and if they win, they get back in, right?
Yeah, but the Champions League, well, you never know. Unai Emery, you can never discount an Unai Emery team. Okay, so I think the FA Cup is a realistic way for them to get back into Europe.
Okay,
they have Preston North End in the semifinals of the FA Cup, also the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and then they can go to Wembley. You never know from there. I think the FA Cup is their path back into Europe. I think they should prioritize it. So therefore, I'm not as concerned about their league position. I think they might finish 8th or 7th. I think they'll prioritize the cup competitions.
Give me who are your 3 favorite players?
Morgan Rogers. He's a revelation. He has made me fall in love with soccer. Like the way that this guy runs with the ball.
We need you to write about this.
Unbelievable. Martinez, amazing. What more can you say? A little bit of a hot take. Well, not a hot take, but just like a little bit more of an underappreciated player. Boubacar Kamara. A defensive midfielder who can just control a game.
Okay.
Again, I'm new to soccer, so when I watch these things, I'm trying to learn the game. This guy is unbelievable. The way that he can control possession, control the deep, I call him a midfield destroyer sometimes. He can just take over a game. And
When do you call him that?
to my wife.
Yeah,
When
you're just
I'm watching-
around the house.
yeah,
You're like,
no, I'm
that's
just-
the midfield.
Julia-
Hey, Julia, look, that's him. That's the midfield destroyer.
Julia hears so much soccer talk during these games. So yeah, those are my top 3. There's a lot of honorable mentions, but those are my top
Okay, and who is the guy who you groan when he's on the pitch?
3.
Who do you dislike watching?
I loved how he played last year, but it's Leon Bailey. When Leon Bailey is out of form, he is one of the most frustrating players to watch in the world because he just doesn't do anything. He's very negative. So, but he's had some high moments, and I don't want to be unfair to him. But yeah, I appreciate you giving me the clear out to talk Aston Villa. It's very rare that I get to kind of just sit here, again, unless it's with my wife during the game, like I said.
She must be. This is a gift to Julia to allow you to not
Yeah.
be talking to her about it.
Yeah, just blow off some Aston Villa steam. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so their league position.
Okay. So you have him around 8th,
So I think I'm going to put him like 5.
5. Okay.
Right? Yeah, I think
That
that's
seems
a good
about
place
right.
for him. Yeah,
All right.
love it.
Wow. What a start to Blind as a Bettis this has been. Much more to come on the other side after this break. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, and they live stream over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and today, they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Tomorrow, NBA Tip-Off Tuesdays. We've talked about it before. NBA Tip-Off Tuesdays, where you place a qualifying parlay bet totaling $20 or more on the NBA games, and you get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. The open account offer at Bet365, here's what it is. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, you will notice that our friend Zach is not here today. And I'm sorry to report that he was kidnapped. I don't know much about the situation other than I got a very creepy voicemail, and it went something like this. I got your friend Zach. It's me, Shady Ray. I got him. If you want him back, you're going to have to give me $1,000. And that's not the Shady Ray that we're talking about. We're talking about a different Shady Ray here, and that is, of course, Shady Rays. Our friends at Shady Rays are helping you get in the right frame of mind with their premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their sunglasses have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. If you're a skier or snowboarder, Shady Rays has a brand new collection of snow goggles to help you see clearly and look good on the slopes, available in both adult and kids sizes. And best part about Shady Rays, it's like there's nothing to lose, because if you lose your shades or you don't like them, you can exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com and save 35% off polarized sunglasses with code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars, so use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com. Don't worry about Zach, by the way. I settled that with Shady Ray. I gave him a free Die Hard subscription, and Zach was able to go back with his family. So we're in good shape.
It's a good trade.
My other thing on Aston Villa, I told you this before. I'm impressed. It's not just Aston Villa. You're paying attention to the whole league.
Yeah,
I only have the bandwidth. You know, I'm a Brighton follower, but I have no idea what's going on in the rest of the league. I'm just watching their games.
Julia likes Brighton because of the Seagulls. It's a likable logo.
Seagulls.
I actually enjoy watching other teams probably more than I enjoy
less
watching
stressful.
Aston Villa at this point. Yeah, because of how invested I've gotten. I don't know. I feel like soccer's great background noise. It's fun to have a game on and kind of be able to be there for the key moments, follow it kind of in the background. Again, like I feel like I've just poured all of my fandom, all the fandom that I had kind of to give somewhere. I just gave it all to Aston Villa. So I've got like the shirts. I would like to get some scarves eventually.
There's an opportunity in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of rants. Like I said, a lot of rants in the household over Aston Villa. Up the Villa, for the record.
All right, here we go. Next item. Round in which the Eagles use their first pick on an offensive player.
Oh, see, this is where the number one spot's going to be valuable. I think.
Most likely, but you never know.
All right, so what was my number 2?
Week 1 starters not on the current roster.
Oh, okay. I feel like this has to go number 1. I mean, is there a world where it's the 5th or 6th round? I imagine, but I do think that there's a real possibility that there's an offensive tackle.
There's no way it could be lower than the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be an offensive lineman in there somewhere. I mean, a receiver is a possibility too. I mean, you can a tight end is obviously a possibility. But I feel like the likelihood that I'm really leaning on to put this number 1 is that Lane Johnson's heir apparent is finally getting brought through the door. I thought it was interesting. We talked to Lane Johnson last week, and he mentioned that he actually is kind of welcoming that possibility. He likes the idea of having some, like, I guess you would call it an understudy, the way that he was with Jason Peters and the way that Cam Jurgens was with Jason Kelsey. I thought it was interesting to hear that he's sort of like excited about that possibility. I think that that's important.
And I think he mentioned somewhere else that the Eagles have done some of the stuff they did with Kelsey, where like they ask him to take a look at some prospects and watch some guys. And so I mean, we've seen some of the reported visits already. Yeah, I would be pretty floored if they don't draft a lineman in the first. Really, the first 2 rounds, but at least the first 3 rounds.
Last year, that's my only like that was the only thing that gave me pause.
And I think they would have been surprised last year.
True. Yeah, I think they would have been surprised. Yeah.
But I think they just thought that there was a big drop off after those first 2 rounds. So yeah, I mean, it may not work out that way. Yeah. We'll see. Okay. Next up, this one's a little bit more complicated.
Okay. Here we go.
So we're talking about Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter.
Okay.
And we're talking about MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.
I see where you're going with this.
Combined ranking for Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter in the voting for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, just in the voting.
And so if they don't get any votes, that's a 0. And so it could be 2 zeros. This could be your 1. Or if you think that they're both going to be in the conversation and get votes, then how high up? How low is it going to go?
So when you say how high up, does that factor into my number? Is it how many years they're in the voting?
Just so like if Jalen Carter finishes 7th in Defensive Player of the Year voting and Jalen Hurts finishes 4th in MVP voting, that's 11. That their number is 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost
could be up to 20, or it could be 0.
Better if they're like fringe,
then it would be higher. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna put this at, is 8 available for me?
8, 9, and 10 are all available for you.
Oh man, I could
3, 6, 8, 9, 10.
I might put it 9. Sorry, I didn't bring a notepad. That's bad work by me.
That's okay. I got to be the scribe.
I feel like I'm gonna put this 9.
Okay.
I feel like Jalen Hurts will have a couple of years where he's I think he is like the perfect example of this. I don't know how many years he's going to be like top 2 or 3 in MVP voting, but I think he'll be in and around it. Especially now, he's got the Super Bowl cred. And I feel like Jalen Carter is going to be around that for a really long time as well. So,
well, this is just for this year.
Oh, just for this year.
This year.
Okay. Okay. I might ask you to move it up then. Just for this upcoming year. Yeah, put it 8. Put it at
move
8.
It
1 more spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it could still be higher than Kelee Ringo game started, just by the nature of there's only 17 games for Kelee Ringo to start. Yeah, maybe I'll regret that
one. Playoffs
one,
included though. Just further, I said playoffs included.
Maybe I'll regret that one a little bit, but I think
that's okay.
8's a safe spot for now.
Do you believe, as we have sort of lightly discussed on the show, that after last season, the Eagles plan to be a little bit more pass heavy this season, and they maybe want to, let Jalen Hurts play without the straitjacket for 2025?
Yeah, straitjacket. I mean, I got nothing for you.
No. I'm serious. Like, do
I believe it?
Do you think that they want the offense to be more pass heavy?
I feel like some of the moves that they've made this offseason kind of. I think that at the very least, I think Nick Sirianni has an appreciation for the run first approach and like the physicality that they play with. I feel like you can let Jalen Hurts play without the straitjacket and also keep this very run-heavy approach around Saquon Barkley. So I'll be honest with you, I don't really buy that this is going to be a pass-heavy offense in 2025 and 2026. I feel like it's probably going to look pretty similar to what it's looked like last year, and I think it makes sense. Like, honestly, I feel like, I think people think that this is like a slight on Jalen Hurts when you talk about it like this, but I feel like this is an offense that is built around Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown. And Jalen Hurts is just a very good quarterback for that offense. I don't think like he's a system quarterback because of that. Like, I remember a few years ago we talked about the Eagles having like a college offense, and that again was like, oh well, what does that say about Jalen Hurts? It says that he runs this offense very well. It's not like it doesn't have to be like an insult to say something like that. So no, I think that I think it's probably still a pretty run first approach if I had to guess.
Okay,
you're not buying it?
It's not that I'm not buying it, and I also think it may go back that way. But I do think that they want this to be a bit more of an open passing game in 2025.
I think
and maybe that just means 2 extra deep shots a game because they were not throwing. There was an entire half of the season when they weren't throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah, no, I think that that's fair, and I think that it's also Jalen told us it looks how he wants it to look.
Right.
So I think that is probably leaning more into what he wants the offense to look like.
Okay. All right. Next up, combined sacks for the following 3 players: Jordan Davis.
Okay.
Bryce Huff and Josh Uche. And let me clarify, this is Eagles only. So if Bryce Huff is traded, his sacks don't count. Jordan Davis, Bryce Huff, Josh Uche.
Okay. What do I have at 5 right now?
Aston Villa finish.
Okay, so that's about like 8 or 9.
You have 3, 6, 9, and 10 open.
Yeah, this is tough. I feel like I want to put it. I'm not going to say anything yet. Let me talk through this one a little bit.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis, how many sacks did he have last year? Did he have like more than 1 or 2 in the regular? Oh, it's regular season and playoffs, right?
Sure.
He had
this one I didn't clarify that, but it should be. You're right.
He had 1 in the regular season and 2 in the playoffs last year. I have no idea what to expect with Josh Uche. I mean, you could tell me he's not on the 53-man roster, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So then I'm really looking at. So who was the third one?
Bryce Huff.
Bryce Huff. I am going to put this one 3.
Okay.
I'm not feeling confident about any of those guys having real sack production.
How do you feel about Jordan Davis, big picture?
I feel like he is. It's interesting because I feel like he is about what I thought the floor was for him, and that sounds bad, but I thought that he had a high floor. Like, I wasn't actually, when they drafted him, I was not among the people who thought like, well, he has to affect the quarterback to be a valuable pick. I thought if you can build a defense around a gap stealing nose tackle, that's a decent floor for a first round pick. Now, listen, I understand the draft value is not quite there, and I was proven wrong by the fact that Howie Roseman came right out and said, if this guy doesn't affect the quarterback, then it probably wasn't worth it. I know that that's paraphrasing, but he basically said the value of the pick will be dictated whether or not he can affect the quarterback. He hasn't really shown that, obviously, but I do think that he has value to the Eagles defensively because of what he can do, in a Vic Fangio system where they are going to play out of light boxes and they need defensive linemen who could steal back gaps. Could you find that in the later rounds of the draft? Can you find that in free agency? Possibly, but I do think having somebody like that on a rookie contract is somewhat valuable. Do I think that they should pick up his 5th-year option for that? Absolutely not. I don't think that he deserves. I don't think that his play is, I don't think it aligns with like being one of the top on the market defensive tackles at this point. But I don't know. I'm still intrigued by him to a certain degree. It's getting to the point where it's like we just haven't seen it. It's like it's hard to project it.
It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
Defensive tackles notoriously take a while.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to continue reiterating this lesson, but like part of the story of last year was like, as Vic Fangio said, like don't put a ceiling on a guy. It's possible. It's possible he turns into an awesome every down defensive tackle.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the reps. I
think it's unlikely.
We've all seen the reps in training camp where like he just blows a guy up, and it's a little bit like, all right, we've seen you do this before. Like, let's see. Or even in preseason, sometimes you'll see him do something that's like, oh my god, this guy, he really does have that upside.
He's 25.
But, yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah, defensive tackles take longer, like you said,
but
it's not something I bank on.
And I don't think they can. I think they let him play out the season and then figure out what his value is after that.
Sure, or extend him to a lower cost deal because he does. I think he does have some value. It's not necessarily the value you'd want from a first round defensive tackle.
All right, next up, combined sacks for Azeez Ojulari and Jalyx Hunt.
I like a Jalyx Hunt,
and Jalyx Hunt too.
I think if Azeez Ojulari is on the field, he's going to have sack production. So I feel like I'm going to be quick with this one. I feel like I'm putting that one.
You have 6, 9, and 10 open.
I think I'm going 6.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily like Kelee Ringo. I'm thinking of him like a 15 to 16 guy. So I feel like if they're in that 10 to 12 range, I feel pretty good about that.
Okay. 2 left. Jahan Dotson, 50-yard games.
All right, I need to do some research to see how many did. I
believe he had 1.
I'm about to say he couldn't have had more than 1 or 2.
I know that he only had 1 game, including the playoffs, in which he had 2 catches that went for a first down, and that was the Super Bowl.
I wish I had some of those lower numbers left. What's my lowest number?
9. You have 9 and 10. That's all that's left.
No. All right, I'm going 9. Jahan Dotson season.
He had 1 50-yard game last year, and it was the Week 18 game with Tanner McKee.
And you know who that was against?
Even
right?
in the Super Bowl, he only had 42 yards.
That was against Adoree Jackson.
That's right.
I don't feel great about Jahan Dotson at number 9.
Well, listen, one of the thing that really separates Blind as a Battis from all the other pretender games is that you will have the opportunity to swap at the end.
Love
so
that.
maybe you'll.
I mean, an injury at wide receiver, all of a sudden he becomes more valuable. And, I think maybe the Jalen Hurts. He spent enough time where he's going to go,
now he knows he's on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like that guy exists.
Yeah.
So maybe not the most outlandish thing on there, but definitely not where I would have put him originally.
Okay.
Now this is where it's going to be
All right, your final one.
Powerless.
And I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay.
On Friday, you and I participated in a nice event over at Temple.
Yeah.
Talking to the young sports journalism minds. And in that roundtable session, you dropped 2 separate Zach Berman quotes just off the dome. And so the item here is Zach Berman's sayings that you can recite right now off the top of your head.
Oh, that's a perfect 10. That's actually perfect.
But then you got to do them.
I'm going to do them right now. Should I say this on the podcast? I guess I have to now.
No, but you can't look at that.
Oh,
it has to be off
come
your
on,
head.
That's not fair.
It has to be off
for
the
the
dome.
listeners. I actually have a note of I call it Zachisms, and it's literally just Zach Berman sayings. Because listen, they're good, and I also figured I want to save these. These are valuable wisdom. Listen, I take Zach's advice very seriously, so I'm not allowed to look at this.
You can take one look.
Okay.
But you cannot just read from it.
Okay. All right. So I have to get 20.
There's no way. However high you want to get.
There's no way I'm going to get 20. So I'm going right now.
Let's go.
It's better to have written than to write. No place I'd rather be.
Okay, 2.
That one counts.
Yeah.
It could be worse. We could be doing work for a living.
Okay, 3.
I'm not going to do this one because there's some profanity, so I'll edit it. It's another. It could be worse. My brothers.
Yes.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Yes.
Just give it to me. I don't want to recite it.
I'll give it to you.
Okay. Oh man, I'm already petering out. I have 15 in the note.
I will tell you this: you are allowed to consult the chat.
Ooh, I love this.
Comparison
is the thief of joy. Is
That's
a good
5.
one. That's why Baskin Robbins has 36 flavors.
6.
It's a great one. We'll do better tomorrow. And let's make this the best year yet.
Okay, 7.
That one's just off the dome too.
Yeah.
That one's really good.
Well, what about the ones you said on Friday? Do you remember which ones you said?
Oh man, I can't even remember.
Okay.
That shows you how deeply ingrained they are. I don't even have them memorized. It just came to mind. I'm gonna go with 8. I let the reader or let the viewers down. I feel like I Zach down a little bit. I got to study my note more.
All right, you got 8.
Hold on. Can I share some of my favorite ones while we're here?
Sure.
I grew up with 5 siblings. We had people, not dogs. To have a good conversation, you have to be interesting and interested.
Yes.
Ask not for a lighter burden. Ask for broader shoulders.
Of course.
Beautiful. Well said.
Be the thermostat, not the thermometer.
Oh, that's bad that I missed that one.
All right.
Put me
now,
on the spot.
here is your order. As I read this, think about the swap you want to make.
Okay.
Number 1, round in which the Eagles draft their first offensive player. Number 2, week 1 starters not on the current roster. Number 3, combined sacks for Jordan Davis, Bryce Huff, and Josh Uche. Number 4, combined starts for Tyler Steen and Sidney Brown. That's a good start. I feel like you're in good shape here.
Yeah, but Jahan Dotson's got to get
Number 5, Aston Villa finish. Number 6, combined sacks for Azeez Ojulari and Jalyx Hunt. Number 7, Kelee Ringo starts. Number 8, combined ranking in the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year voting for Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter in 2025. Number 9, Jahan Dotson 50-yard games. And number 10, Zach Berman sayings off the dome. You got 8.
So that one's an L, the Zach Berman sayings. I'm not going to move that one. I'm going to move Jahan Dotson. I'm going to swap. I'm just going to, go with the Azeez Ojulari, Jalyx Hunt hive. I'm going to swap those two.
Okay, so they're going to 9.
Yeah, just bank on those two guys just going absolutely insane next year. Yeah.
Nicely done.
I actually am pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think you did great.
Thank you.
We'll find out
you
how
went
I do.
Easy on me.
On the other side, we'll see how diabolical EJ can be right after this. Time to talk about game time. Hey, listen, Sixers, Cinco de Mayo, but probably good opportunity to get into the building for cheap. Bring the family, you know what I mean? Best place to do it. Check it out on Game Time. We've talked about Game Time since the beginning. What do they bring? All-in pricing, so you don't get surprised by hidden fees at the very end. You get the seat view, so you know exactly what it's going to look like when you get to the stadium without having to be surprised. You get the lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And you get Game Time ticket coverage, where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And then, tell you about our friends at Golden Nugget. For the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. Customers from across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even Baltimore and New York City have come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find that perfect engagement ring, wing, or wedding band. It's a ring. If you like it, then you better put a wing on it. That's a good Eagles segment name for later we should hold on to. The staff at Golden Nugget Jewelers is highly trained and dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience. A vast selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, along with high-end watches, fashion jewelry, and sparkling diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and more. You can also receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring purchase. Golden Nugget Jewelers, family owned and operated since 1987, right there on 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly. You deserve an expert and the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more. All right, EJ, I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to kick it off.
Strapping in.
We're going to kick it off with Nolan Smith sacks in 2025.
Ooh, Nolan Smith sacks.
So I think we're going to do regular season and playoffs for all of these as well. I think it's only fair.
What are you thinking? Safely, this is in the 8 range.
Okay.
How high, how wide is your berth going to be here? I'm going to put this at...
It's a weird question.
Yeah. I'm going to put this at 4.
Okay. I feel like that's a good start, right?
How do you feel about Nolan Smith?
I did my research on this when I was making my own rankings, and it's funny how fast it can change, right? Because if you had asked us around week 10 or week 11, we would be they could not count on this guy to be a starter next year. And now we are all kind of penciling him in as a starter. As the
1A on the outside.
Yeah, and I think the team is too. So, and I think it's warranted. His best moments came in the highest stakes games. I think that really does count for something. He had 8 sacks in his last 11 games last year. So I feel like while there might be a drop-off from that, I don't think you can necessarily expect him to be a complete game wrecker like he was at points during the postseason. I do think I don't know. It's funny. Like, I think he's going to be a plus pass rusher, and I think his effort on run down and against
His
the run,
violence.
yeah, like he is actually a very solid. And you know what? Shout out to Ben Solak, because I remember he said that about Nolan Smith when he got drafted. It's like he's undersized, but he's going to. I think the way Ben says it, to stick his face in a fan. I think
and the way he takes on those pullers, he's like trying to end guys.
Yeah, so I honestly think he is a pretty reliable. I think he should be a pretty reliable starter for that defense.
The main caution is just injuries, because the way he plays and his frame, those two things combined could invite injury.
Yeah, I think his rookie season is informed a little bit by the fact that he suffered that injury in the preseason. It seemed to bother him the rest of the year, at least from an outside perspective. It seemed that way. So, I think you're pretty bang on with that though, Nolan Smith. So, the next one I have is Saquon Barkley, 100-yard games. So I can tell you he had 11 last year.
11. This one feels very close to Nolan Smith. I'm actually gonna go. I don't know how high your numbers are gonna go.
Can't reveal my secrets.
But I'm actually.
This is a player you could take a bet on him.
I don't think he's gonna have the same type of season as he did last year. How could he? That was the best running back season ever.
I tend to agree with you.
I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go one shy of the Nolan Smith sacks.
Okay. All right. Next one.
Now, this is just rushing, right? We're not... It's okay.
Yep. A.J. Dillon carries divided by 10. I have a couple of these to kind of...
Oh, interesting.
Just kind of, maybe kind of make it a little bit tighter in there. So you're going to take A.J. Dillon's carries and divide them by 10. I can tell you, I'm going to give you some context for some of these. Kenny Gainwell had 75 carries last year, and Will Shipley had 30. So that's all I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to give you any more hints.
Number one. This is my floor.
So you feel like the A.J. Dillon experience is going to be similar to the Rashad Penny experience then?
He's not guaranteed of making the team.
Yeah.
So I got to put it. And even if he does make the team,
you're giving away one pretty fast there.
I know, but
all right.
There's got to be a distance between that and Saquon. I got to leave a little bit of room.
Okay, I respect it. The next one is total minutes of the next Philly special 3-man pod divided by 10. Now, we can get a little long on that show, especially when it's all three of us, me, Sean, and Sheil.
Oh, you, Sean, and Sheil. Okay.
Yeah, so we've only done
few and far between.
We've only done one before, but I think we'll have some more coming up. Hopefully, I mean, listen, it's Sheil's show. He tells me what we do, but Sean and I, we advocate. We're like cousins that like to converse. So the next time we do a pod, our last one went about 2 hours and change, and we were disappointed that Sheil cut us off.
Well, and then he split it into 2.
So the part 1 and part 2
combined count.
It is what the thing on our recording says, not what it says on wherever you get your podcast. If it's a 2-parter,
well, that's good.
The full minute total of those 2 parts combined
divided by 10.
Divided by 10.
But 2 hours is only 120.
But I think that's the floor.
I'm gonna go. Do I need extra room there? I'm gonna go 6.
Okay. All right. Shout out to Sheil, by the way, and shout out SZA. Next one, Jalen Hurts.
Kiki Palmer.
I like that. I like that poll.
Listen, she sang the national anthem at an Eagles game.
Yeah.
SZA's never done that.
I mean, not yet. You never know. Jalen Hurts' total championship tally by the end of his career.
Oh, wow.
Multiplied by 10.
Multiplied by 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically,
right now it's at 10.
Basically, the question is, do you think Jalen Hurts wins?
I like the math. I like that you've added math. That's fun. Okay, so even if he gets to 2, that's 20. Now, he doesn't have to be the starter, right? So if 10 years down the line, he's just on a roster.
He doesn't have to be the starter, but he has to win it, to be clear.
What do you mean?
He has to be the victor. He can't just make it to the Super Bowl.
No, yeah, but he doesn't have to play in the game.
He does not have to play in the game.
Right. Okay.
I did not really consider that, but it is part of the calculus.
Ooh, this is a good one. I'm going to go 9.
Okay. Okay. I told you I also had the Sidney Brown one. I do have some backups if you wanted me to.
It's up to you. I'm happy to hear a backup.
Okay. I'm gonna sub out the Sidney Brown one since we already had the conversation. Jameis Winston, total interceptions next season.
Ooh, interesting.
Now, is he gonna start? Is the question.
Well, I mean, listen, they signed him, but it should be said they have never entered the season with an African American starting quarterback. They're the last club in the NFL to integrate.
That is very anti-classy too. It's kind of insane.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
Some people think that's classy. I don't. I mean, the guy, they fired Ben McAdoo because he dared start Geno Smith for a game.
Tyrod Taylor started for them, didn't he? No?
That was after.
Okay.
Geno was first, I believe.
Gotcha.
Okay. I mean, listen, that guy he can throw picks in bunches. But I don't really think that they're going to let him be the quarterback all year long.
But you can get a couple in before.
But yeah, I mean, listen, 5 games he could get you 25 picks. I'm gonna go 7.
Okay. That's a big number for him. So you're thinking double digits for sure.
Yes.
Okay. I respect it.
Yes.
All right. So we're not getting away from Kelee Ringo though. Because,
Okay.
I had to have Kelee Ringo on.
I have 2, 5, 8, and 10 open.
Yes. I have that. I also have that in my digital notes here.
Okay.
Kelee Ringo, game started. We've already had the discussion. So you can just throw
where
it in
do I
there.
come down in it? Okay. Well, I gotta go 8 here because I agree with you. I think he is likely to be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
And the choice is, do I go between Nolan Smith sacks and Philly special? Oh, actually, maybe that's the place to do it. Or is it between Jameis interceptions and Jalen Hurts titles? Now, Jalen Hurts titles, I'm sort of pricing in at 20.
Yeah, so it's somewhere
So
between
Ringo's he can't go over that. So it's
Yeah.
going to be 5 or 8. Is it more likely to go above Jameis or above the Philly special pod?
That is kind of an awkward number.
14.
How many sacks do you think Nolan Smith's going to have?
I'm going to put him at 5. I'm going to put him between Nolan Smith sacks and Philly special pod divided by 10.
So that's probably you're thinking 13 games.
Right.
Maybe the base thing will help you out then, Keep him off the field for a couple of starts.
Potentially.
Never know.
A couple injuries.
All right.
2, 8, 10.
Eagles wins in 2025.
Ooh. I mean, I have no choice but to put this at 8.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good year. I guess it depends on how many picks you think Jameis is going to throw.
This includes playoffs too, right? But
yeah.
I mean, it's hard to follow up a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I think they should still win double-digit games.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at it, and they won 14 games in 2 of the last 3 seasons. So, it seems like they are. It's hard to imagine them doing quite that well again next season, just because it did feel like some things broke their way.
And the schedule is going to be tougher.
Sure, but yeah, and I think you're in the right ballpark with that.
I may pull a little switcheroo at some point here, but yeah.
I think you're going to have to be bold with this one.
2 and 10, so it's got okay.
Football Manager trophies combined between the 2 of us this offseason. So a little backstory for the listeners. Bo and I have talked. We talked during training camp of that. We both wanted to start playing Football Manager, but we knew we didn't have the time. If you're not familiar with what the game is, it is it is like the nerdiest, most esoteric soccer simulator you could possibly imagine. You are doing the most ridiculous negotiating contracts for a physio for your team, or I need a sports scientist, I need a recruitment analyst. It is very much in the weeds. It'll take you days to get through a month of a season if you do it the right way. So when I was ranking these, I made a note that I don't trust you to actually play the game.
I don't trust myself to play the game.
And I honestly respect it because I started it, and it is a little bit of
Yeah? How daunting?
It's daunting because it is so
I'm
detailed.
super curious, and if I had a month to just live by if Zach had a month to live by himself, he would just want to go right somewhere.
And you'd be winning
I would
the
love to
treble
just sit and play Football Manager for
in
a
Brazilian
month. Yeah.
Serie 1 or whatever.
Who's got that kind of time?
It is. It's that's what I find frustrating right now is I don't have enough time to really make progress.
Well, there's this is a thing that I would like to do. I would also like to read more fiction and
this
watch
is
more
important, in my
movies.
opinion. More important.
So, and like, is this the thing that I'm putting it at 2?
Just like, hold on, but
even if I did do it,
think
we're not
about
going to
this.
win that.
Even if you don't trust yourself, can you trust me?
Yeah, but how many titles are it's hard to win a title.
Well, I'm currently managing Aston Villa, so we could get a couple of trebles in there. You never know. So
so this is not just
domestic
any
cups.
title.
No, yeah, this is any title, trophies,
Any
silverware.
trophy. All right, that's interesting. I still have to put it at 2.
All right.
And I actually feel pretty good about that.
I feel like you're underestimating my ability for tedium.
What, do you plan on easy mode?
Oh no, definitely not. But I mean, once June hits, I got some time to rack up some silverware for the villains.
All right.
All right, last one.
All right, I better hope this is a high one. 10 is all I got
I
left.
think you'll feel okay about it. Jalen Carter, sacks. Now listen, he had 4.5 sacks last season. But if you watched him play, you know his impact on games. So I think the question you have to ask yourself is what we saw from him last season an indicator that he is about to become that next elite production level interior rusher? Like, is he going to join the ranks of somebody like Aaron Donald, Dexter Lawrence, Chris Jones, or is his game less about sacks and more about just destruction and chaos?
And does Milton Williams' departure mean that he's going to get even more double teams, which he already saw, one of the highest rates in the league in last year? I mean, I wouldn't put this at 10 if I had the choice. I have no choice, but I do. I mean, I would not be surprised if he has 12 sacks next season.
Aaron Donald had more sack production early in his career. I was looking at it earlier. So he had 9 sacks as a rookie, 11 sacks in 2015 for his second year. He had 8 sacks, 11 sacks, and then he had a 20-sack season, 20.5 sacks in 2018. So, I do think, that's kind of... I think Jalen Carter will settle into being a double-digit sack guy at some point. Is it next year? I'm not sure. Or maybe, again, I think that there is an interesting argument to make that maybe he isn't a sacks guy. He is just a chaos guy. He is a game wrecker, but maybe not on the stat sheet. Just when you watch him play, you can see him do ridiculous things against interior offensive linemen, and it's obvious that other teams have to start with him for the game plans.
I think those sacks will come, at least. Maybe not on an every year double-digit level, but I think he will. I think he will get there.
Yeah,
he's too good not to.
His sack production did surprise me when I went back and looked at it. I thought he had more. Just watching him every week, you feel his impact more. So.
All right, so here's my order, and then I'll get to my swap. AJ Dillon carries divided by 10. Feel good about that. Football Manager titles won by EJ and me combined, mostly EJ. Feel good about that. Saquon 100-yard rushes or games with 100-yard rushing. Okay. Number 4, Nolan Smith sacks. Number 5, Kelee Ringo starts. Number 6, minutes of the next 3-man Philly special divided by 10. Number 7, Jameis interceptions. Number 8, Eagles wins. Number 9, Jalen Hurts titles times 10. And number 10, Jalen Carter sacks. I think I have to swap out Carter. And I think what I do is I swap it with Jameis interceptions and hope that Jameis gets that job or plays the lion's share of those games, and he is the one who has real 20-plus upside.
Let Jameis cook.
So I'm gonna go Jalen Carter to 7 in between Philly special and Eagles wins, and Jameis up to 10.
I like it. All right. Do you want me to show you? Do you want me to reveal my rankings?
What a fantastic game this was.
This was good. This is all you, by the way. The name, the construction of the game. It's funny. I was reading the description of the game to my wife, and she was really confused. And she's a lot smarter than me. And I was like, let me read it to you again. I don't think it's that confusing. And then I had it wrong. So that shows you that this
that is a knock at me. It means I didn't explain it well.
No. Well, no.
I was like, those blind rank things? If you want to find out how EJ and I ranked our own propositions, we're going to do it on overtime in just a second. I don't think it was overtime. I could have done a better job explaining it, but I mean, a brand new game in the middle of March. What more could you ask for? Blind as a Battis. Okay, give me your rankings. See how they compared to mine.
All right, so
I had AJ Dillon carries divided by 10. Where did you have that?
I had that 2.
Okay. Football Manager titles. Where did you have that?
I had it 3, and it's because I don't trust you.
Okay.
I trust myself to win a couple of those trophies.
Okay.
But you, I don't know. Yeah.
Saquon 100-yard rushing games.
I had that 5.
Okay.
So,
Same ballpark. Nolan
yeah.
Smith sacks.
I had that 4.
Okay. Kelee Ringo starts. What do you have, that 9?
Where do I have Kelee? I had him 7. I had 13, but volatile.
Ooh, I'm just curious what you had at number 1. Philly special pod divided by 10.
I had that 9. I think that thing's going to go long.
Well, you are. I mean, you do have some
I
control,
have some control
over that one. Yeah. Jalen Carter sacks.
I had that 6.
Okay.
And the range, I think you'll get a kick out of this. The range for Jalen Carter sacks for next season, I have 7 to infinity.
That's good. That's actually also the range for Jameis interceptions, but I'm guessing that's your 1.
I didn't have Jameis interceptions because it was an extra.
Oh, that's right. You had a Sidney. What did you have? Sidney Brown?
I had Sidney Brown 1.
Okay.
I had him as the lowest. So I probably.
Oh, so when you had 2, that could have been your 1, and that would have been your 1 in this one.
So AJ Dillon would have been 1 for me.
Okay. So we had that right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Eagles wins. Where did you have that?
I had that 8.
Okay, that's exactly where I had it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jalen Hurts titles times 10.
Yeah, I had that 10.
So you think he's got another one?
It's hard to bet it. It sounds weird to say it's hard to bet against him. He's so young. He's still got a lot of time to do it. So yeah.
And then mine for you had number 1 offensive round, round in which the Eagles use their first pick on an offensive player at number 1. I also had that at number 1.
Okay.
You had week 1 starters not on the current roster. I also had that at number 2. Combined sacks for Jordan Davis, Bryce Huff, and Josh Uche was your number 3. That was my number 5. Tyler Steen and Sidney Brown starts was your number 4.
Let me ask you something before we get too far. Who among that trio did you feel good enough about to put them 5? Or did you not? It's just
I think it was more about the other ones around it.
Fair.
Because you got a little bit waylaid by the Jahan Dotson one, which
true.
I had at 3.
Okay, yeah, all right. Fair.
So then next was Tyler Steen and Sidney Brown combined starts. I had that at 7. That was your 4. Your 5 was Aston Villa finish. I also had that. I had that at 9.
So you thought that you think they're just gonna?
I just think the other numbers are lower.
Okay, yeah.
I think I priced them into between 8 and 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't feel strong enough about it.
Yeah.
Then you had Jahan Dotson at 6, 50-yard games. I had that at 3. Kelee Ringo starts. You had at 7. I had at 8. Combined ranking in the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year ranking for Jalen and Jalen. I had that at 6. You had it at 8.
Okay.
And then 9, you had your swap for the Azeez Ojulari and Jalyx Hunt sacks. I had that at 10. And then Zach Berman sings you had at 10. I had that at 4.
You had a more realistic view of my ability to quote Zach Berman. It's more about
a lot of pressure to do it.
Off the dome is hard, but I got the list.
Okay. It was fun.
Yeah, no, this was great.
Give it up in the chat for EJ Smith. If you got, listen, you know, I don't like a mailbag, but if you have questions that this is your one chance to ask EJ, fire them off now. Speak now or forever hold your pee.
I'm an open book. Is that a Zaxium right there?
No.
He
very much is not
an open book. But he might say he's an open book.
No, he would not say that. He doesn't want to be an open book.
He is, though, whether he wants to or not.
Well, he's a book that we are trying to pry open a little bit more every single day. What else you got going on the rest of vacation or the rest of off season?
Well, I am going on vacation. We alluded to it earlier. I'm actually going to see Aston Villa in the Champions League.
Paris Campbell.
I know almost no French, so that will be interesting. I mean, I've actually heard that the French, I heard that in Paris they can be a little bit like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they don't want to speak English. Like they don't want you to do that. We don't do that here.
Why?
So, I don't know what you're. Yeah. So I might need to do some research before we go, but it should be fun. Yeah. I have been doing that around the house. Yeah. So,
yeah, they're not gonna want to talk English to you.
Yeah. Well, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. Google Translate got me through Brazil. It'll get me through this.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No. I think anything I'd say, I'd be a little bit worried about bringing it up on the pod.
Okay. EJ Polar Jam wants to know, can you talk about your spring lawn care routine?
Ooh, I would love that more than anything. So I've been checking the soil temperature pretty religiously. Usually when it's around 45 degrees is when I start thinking about laying down fertilizer and starting to mow my grass. Now, this time of the year, it can sometimes be, you get like those like false springs, so it gets cold, and that's really bad for the grass if you're cutting it already. So I really like to wait for it to green up. And then when I mow, I just really prioritize not doing the same pattern 2 times in a row. You don't want compaction in the lawn this early in the season. I don't do pre-emergent, which is like a weed prevention, because you want the grass seed to grow. You don't want to prevent that. So those are the big tenets of my spring lawn care. I try to mow, honestly, like every 3 or 4 days once I get going.
Are you growing stuff too?
That's Julia's department. Okay. She does the garden. I just do the grass. It's easy. It's a lot easier that way. I know that this might sound ridiculous to some people, but I find lawn mowing very meditative. It's very just.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's super relaxing, and I don't know. I've really taken to it. So
are you like listening to something while you're mowing, or you're just this time going of year, pure raw dog?
It's I don't know. I don't raw dog the lawnmower. I usually listen to draft podcasts until May. Okay. And then I will sometimes
the PHLY draft show with Fran Duffy. Yeah. Speaking of which, live again tomorrow at noon. We'll be talking about the outliers like we did last week, except this week on the defensive side of the ball.
That'll give me something on my first mow. So yeah, that's pretty much the routine. And then in the summer, it kind of I pare it down a little bit. I do once a week once it gets too hot. I'm not a guy who waters his lawn. I just feel like that's a bridge too far for the lawn love. You know, it's like I don't want to be the guy out there watering my lawn. So yeah, that's pretty much those are the broad strokes, I would say.
Okay. Rob wants to know what's your favorite memory from the Super Bowl.
They actually asked us this on the panel.
Yes.
My favorite memory is actually after the game, once we had gotten back to the hotel. I was sitting with my colleagues, Jeff Nyberg and Olivia Reiner, so shout out to them. And we were literally, it's like 3 a.m., we're like exhausted, and we are running on fumes, but we're kind of like running off of each other's energy. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's just like kind of like the quiet moment after all the chaos. And yeah, no, that's definitely one that'll stick with me forever. Seeing Kendrick Lamar live was pretty cool too, I got to be honest. So,
all right. We have a super chat from Chase Daniel Plainview, who says, in honor of the Atlantic piece about the DoD group chat snafu, who is the most unfortunate person you included in a group chat?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I feel like I have one too. Honestly, just all my friends in my current group chat. It's kind of unfortunate that we are bound together for life like that. Do you have any toxic group chats like that?
I think there is some story of we had a group chat and there was one wrong number included, but it was just like a random one that it wasn't that funny.
I have a good one. So it's not me including somebody, unfortunately. I was unfortunately included in a group chat once. And it was the morning of the Super Bowl. If my dad is still listening to this, shout out to my dad, because it was my dad's friends. They thought, me and my dad have the same name.
Sure.
So I'm actually the third. My grandfather is the first Ernest.
Shout out to Ernest.
Yeah, shout out to all the Ernests out there. So my dad's friends included me on a group chat literally like an hour before kickoff of the Super Bowl. I won't exactly get into what they were talking about. They were talking about boycotting something. And they were like talking about like certain crazy people. And like my phone is like blowing up. And it's an hour before the Super Bowl. I'm like, preoccupied. And like finally, at first, because they're all numbers I didn't recognize, I'm like, who are these people? And why are they boycotting this? What are they talking about? And then I realized it's my dad's friends, and they included the wrong EJ. So.
Well, speaking of your dad, we have someone in the chat who says, small world, EJ's dad was a football coach at my high school.
Norristown High School. That is correct, yeah. That's where I get my love from football. One year I gave my dad plays for Christmas.
Nice.
They were probably not very good plays.
I hope he tried to run one.
Probably not, honestly.
At least tell you that he did.
Yeah, no, but my dad was a Norristown High School football coach for a long time. He's like the mayor in Norristown. Everybody knows him.
I love that.
Yeah. Vice principal, too.
Cousin Gray says, every 3 days, that's why my grass allergies are so bad.
Well, I apologize. I also have grass allergies. I power through, You just gotta take a shower right when you're done. Make sure the clothes go straight in the washing machine. You power through it. Every 3 days, I'm telling you. I think that is the biggest thing in lawn care that people don't realize. You should be mowing your grass more often. You don't want to be taking off half of the grass every time you cut.
Why?
It's bad for the grass.
Yeah,
it damages the grass. It's called the 1/3 theory, 1/3 rule. You want to take off a third of the blade every single time.
So here's my last question. Lawn care espresso making, Aston Villa,
Okay. Yeah.
guitars. Rank your
Obsessive
nerdiness
hobbies.
obsession with those four things.
I would say Aston Villa 1 for now.
Really?
Yeah.
Top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2. Right now, it's probably lawn care.
Okay. Well, it's this time of year.
Yeah. Honestly, though,
It's taking up the space in
I
here.
miss it when it's cold outside.
Oh.
I actually love shoveling too. I don't know, something about
Okay.
the completionist nature of shoveling. I really
This
enjoy.
is deep.
Also meditative.
Yeah.
I would say I have to put guitar 3 because I've been doing it since I was 11.
Yeah.
Again, I broke my ankle playing football, and that's
Okay.
the origin of my guitar playing. My dad gave me a guitar. He's like, you got to do something. So
It's like the origin of Isaac Seumalo's ping pong career.
exactly. Yeah. Guitar 3 and then espresso making 4. I love espresso making and making latte art. A little bit of a stressful hobby at times. More stressful than you might imagine. So
Because you're not happy with your own performance?
yeah, and it's like if you make a bad latte, you either gonna start over or you're gonna just drink it and you're just gonna be sad the whole time.
Right.
But when you make really good latte art, so satisfying.
Now, what about the guitar? How often are you playing?
I used to play every day for a long time. I'm probably more every couple days. I used to think my wife would be annoyed when I played. It's a loud hobby, but she actually likes it when I play, which is it's nice. Yeah.
Nice.
And I don't play offensive music or anything like that. It's very
That would be funny.
peaceful, calm. It's not
Okay.
anything crazy.
How many guitars do you have?
Right now I've got I technically would have 3. I've had a lot before. I've always been more of a quality over quantity guy, which might sound weird because I just said I have 3 guitars, but some guys will have 15, 20, 25. I've got a Stratocaster, a Les Paul, and then I have an acoustic guitar. I think that's the perfect trio you could ever imagine. So.
How do you feel about the fact that Les Paul, Lesbo, and Paul Domowitch?
I'd never considered this before. Maybe there's some poetry there. Those 2 guys were humongously helpful for me in my early career covering the Eagles. I mean, they're pretty much the reason that I cover the Eagles, in my opinion. So shout out to them.
Have you ever been in a band?
Yeah, back in high school. You'll love this. You know what my band name was?
Ernest Goes to Music.
No, Conflict of Interest.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Little journalism nerd.
Yeah.
We did Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix covers.
Okay.
Some bad singing by me.
Okay.
But not recently. I haven't been in a band.
Will Julia sing while you play?
No, definitely not.
Okay. We need to find you a singer. There's a little duo to go on.
Yeah, because I can't sing. I realized that when I was about 19 years old. I was I think I need to hang up the microphone for good. So,
Well, one day. EJ, thank you so much.
thanks for having me.
What a
This
pleasure.
has been fun. Yeah.
That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Back tomorrow, 2 shows. We got the PHLY Eagles show, regular show at 2 o'clock. Before that, we've got the PHLY draft show with Fran Duffy at noon. Fran Duffy, not to confuse you, will also be on the PHLY Eagles show at 2 o'clock. So you get lots of Fran tomorrow talking draft, whatever else we think about, whatever you want to hear about. Maybe we'll see Shady Ray. Not who's to say. For all of us here at PHLY, for Julia, most of all, thank you to EJ. Thank you to you guys for watching and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
Y'all silly like